I think it gets overlooked because it sounds cliche or corny or cheesy, but it's culture, right? 0 to 3 years, you're like, I'll figure the culture out. Right now, I need to make some damn money, you know? What insight would you give for someone? Are the cliches correct?
You have to be available for everyone that depends on you. And so when you are the type of owner, especially in that first 1 to 3 years in business, take a step back and look at how you operate during the day. Are you constantly like busy, stressed out, always on your phone, not very approachable? The culture of your business is something that you are inherently responsible for, but it's very hard to see like pouring the foundation of the culture of your company when you're wearing 10 different hats and doing a bunch of different things. I think when you look at creating culture, especially from the beginning, starting a company, you have to make a timeline of the people that you want to hire and set goals around that. A lot of times, especially when you first start out in business, the idea of hiring someone for $50, $70, $100,000 a year, you look at that big number and you're like, I can't afford $100,000 a year. How am I going to pay this person? Well, I have great news for you. You don't actually have to pay someone's salary up front.
Yeah, straight up.
Like, it's a little bit more affordable than you think.
Straight.
And so when you look at what an employee, you know, $100,000 a year is what, $8,000 a year? Or, I'm sorry, $8,000 a month, $9,000 a month. If a $100,000 a year employee is going to cost you, let's say it's $8,000 to $10,000 a month, what could you have that role do? And how does that play into your business getting further? What time is freed up when you're taking things off your plate and able to delegate so you can focus on the things that you're actually better at? A lot of business owners, I'm not saying all of them, usually know how to sell or market the product that they do.
Yeah.
And so for a lot of us, if you can look at like, what are the things I'm doing during the day that are allowing me to not bring revenue into my business? Am I answering every phone call? Am I dealing with every customer service issue? Am I the one sending quotes? Am I the one following up on invoices? Am I the one doing the hiring? Am I the one ordering supplies or products? None of those are revenue generating activities. And if you know, in order for you to hire someone to do some of these things, you simply have to go out and make more money. A lot of times as a newer business owner, you have less jobs or work on the calendar or projects than you do time in the day, especially when you first start. You're looking for work or jobs. More often than not, customers are very willing to deal directly with the owner because they know if something goes wrong, they can make it go right. So if you're delegating the 8 to 10 hours that you work during a day and separating that time in, what are my revenue generating activities and what are my revenue supporting activities? And when you look at revenue generating activities, you can still go, what am I good at? What do I like? What am I not good at? What I don't like? And then you look at revenue supporting activities and you do the same exercise. This day and age.
That's huge right there. That's good.
Yeah, I mean, this day and age, you can go work at McDonald's for 20, 25 bucks an hour. 25 bucks an hour is damn near 50 G's a year.
Yeah.
And so when you look at attracting talent, especially someone to do something that maybe you're not that great at or maybe you don't have that much coverage on, another great thing about the world we live in this day is there's fractional work, there's remote work, there's people in other countries that are simply trained already to do some of these revenue supporting activities. And so a simple exercise of going through revenue generating, revenue supporting, and then just saying, what am I good at? What do I like doing? What am I not good at? What do I not like doing? And truly holding yourself accountable. If it's month over month, if it's quarter over quarter, you could be watching this and have no employees. Simply make these lists. You could be watching this and you're going into your 4th year in business to this next phase. Doing this exercise every single quarter and then having that based on what are the goals in your business? Do you have a revenue goal? Are you trying to hit $1 million for the first year? Are you trying to hire 2 more people or laborers or technicians or salespeople? Are you trying to become this much more profitable this quarter than you were the same quarter last year? If you have a list of your goals, it's easier to break down your responsibilities and the things that lead towards your goals. And this is the boring stuff in business. This is the thing that's in the books, it's on the podcast, it's the dialing in, setting out your why, setting out your goals, and then doing an exercise that leads you to lay the bricks down to the path of achieving those goals.
Love that. Let's transition into the year, really 4 to 7 or 3 to 7.
Yeah.
Where do we start there? Kind of break that down.
So when we go down like the linear path or timeline of what I call the Dave concept, you have year 0 to 3, where you're getting started, you're figuring it out. This leads to year 4 to 7, which can be great, and you can stay there for a long time, or you can almost skip it and jump over it. After your 3rd year in business, you should be at a spot where you're not wearing every hat, you're not doing everything, there's not emotionally based decisions being made as much when you're figuring out, stressed out, but you're more focused on like, what are the things that can propel this business to the next level? That's the good path. When you understand the level of self-awareness required of you as a business owner to break through the glass ceilings, that's where year 3 to 7 get really fun, because you're hiring people to do the stuff you don't want to do. You're probably making enough profit to make better decisions, because I think when you take a step back, year 0 to 3, we all have an idea of our why. I want to spend more time with my kids. I want to be present for my family. I want to make more money. I'm a really bad employee and I don't like working for other people. I want to have my own hours, whatever the case was. If you have your why in year 0 to 3, you also know the things you have to sacrifice, because you're not going to have those things right away when you start a business. You're actually giving up, for those of you that came from a career, you're giving up a 40-hour work week to maybe work 80 to 100 hours some weeks.
And be obsessed.
We don't always know that we're signing up for that. What should be happening to the first 1 to 3 years, if you're going down the good path, is you're identifying things along the way that allow you to remove yourself from some of the stuff that's holding your business back. If you can get to a spot where you're simply making more profit, and I used to think in business that success only meant profitability. In business, we should make money, but there are other things you can buy with your money which are more valuable, like time. If we look at year 1 to 3, you should be taking notes, awareness, understanding in your quarterly and annual planning. What are the things that you want to do when you simply become more profitable? That person you have to hire, that piece of equipment you want to buy, the training that you need for your team to get them to the next level. When you really are looking at identifying where the gaps are in your business, it allows this very beautiful place in business, year 3 to 7, that you can actually live forever, is like you're growing, you're successful, you're expanding, you're identifying opportunities, but you're taking that profit that you were focused on growing by running a sustainable business to buy more of your time back to only focus on the stuff you want to do and the stuff you're good at, versus doing a bunch of stuff you don't want to do or you're not good at. Now, there's balance here. For years, you might have to do something that you're good at that you don't want to do. That's one of the sacrifices. But if you look at the 8 to 10 hours that you work during a day, can you sacrifice 2 hours doing something you're good at, you don't want to do, so that in those other 6 to 8 hours, maybe you don't have to work as hard, or maybe you're saving money because you don't have time yet to hire someone to fill that role. The self-awareness you learn in year 0 to 3 carries you into the beautiful part of year 3 to 7, because you're profitable, you're growing, you're hiring people, you're creating opportunities, you're helping your customers, like this beautiful part. The negative side of that is you can stay stuck in year 1 to 3. You don't really grow. You're not being self-aware. You're doing the same reactive behaviors that are causing a similar position, your office manager or salesperson, to quit every 3, 6, 12 months. You're in your own way. You need everything your way. You're not super approach. Oh, open door policy, come in, talk to me when you want to, but you're always on your phone yelling. You never really have time for someone. You have a meeting with someone, you don't remember what they say, they ask you a week later, you say, oh, I'll get to it. And it becomes this thing of like, Dave's so busy, I don't want to approach him. More times than not, what got us here is depending on ourselves. But the other side of that, if you ever read the book, What Got Us Here Won't Get Us There, there are certain mentalities, there are certain habits, there are certain behaviors that we have to give up because of where we want to go. When you get into that year 3 to 7 of business, it's probably not the same world you were living in when you first started your company. And so truly understanding that, like, if you identify the places that you need to grow and what you need to give up, it can expedite and make year 3 to 7 plus a lot funner, or more profitable, or more interesting, or more whatever keeps you involved in your business. But if you don't do these exercises of understanding what you're good at, what you want to do, what you're not good at, and what you don't want to do, you can constantly have your hands in everything, which will limit your growth. If you keep the same mentality of your 0 to 3 years in business, you can actually completely hop to plus 7 years or 10 years or whatever it is. Think of the times that you've met a business owner that's been in business for 10, 15, 20 years. They're always upset. They're still working 80, 90, 100 hours a week. They're not making enough money. They don't have enough time for their family. So when they started their business, they probably wanted all these things. But because of their inability to get out of their own way, they skip the fun part and they stay there forever. How many times have you met a man or a woman that's 50, 60, 70 years old? They're kind of grumpy. They're not really happy. They're always yelling or bitching or chain smoking, whatever it is, because they never held up the mirror and were like, where do I need to hold myself accountable to get to these next levels? One of my mantras of 2024 was to have real control is to give up all control. We can't just give up control and not have a plan and not expect anything to happen. But there's a saying, if depression is living in the past and anxiety is living in the future, the work we do every day as leaders, as mentors, as owners, as visionaries is simply being in the moment. Pattern interruptions. I was gonna send this message. I was gonna act this way. I was gonna vice. I was gonna pick up a cigarette or a vape. I was gonna do something. As a human, if you understand the power of pattern interruption, that's the real change. Because if I'm anxious and I have a habit that I do to calm myself down that I'm trying to break, if I'm in the moment, I can say, let's not pick up that energy drink. Let's not hit the vape. I go to vices a lot with this, but it's like, if I want to do something and I can simply say, I recognize I want to do this. I'm not going to do this. Take a deep breath. Acknowledge that I didn't do the thing I wanted to. Like, that is the definition of being in the moment. And when you look as business owners, how accountable are you holding yourself? Because business isn't only in the right now. It's about the future. It's about the planning. It's about where you're going. Unless you're looking at selling your business next week or next month or at the end of the year, it's really important to focus on, like, in this moment right now, in my communication, in being present. Am I truly holding myself accountable for the thoughts around what got us here, will not get us there, and what work can I do right now to stay focused on what my goals actually are?
On next week's episode of Dope Conversations.
Financial disciplines people should try to adapt early on that might set up their 4 to 7 a little bit easier.
There's a financial exercise that's really important for any business, and there's a story that I like to tell that'll kind of get us to the understanding.